So a couple weeks ago I got this piece of sugar cane at the local farmer's market, and been wanting to grow some sugar cane in the yard for quite a while, and they were actually crushing the cane and selling juice, and so we got to taste it. It was a really sweet cane, and the guy assured me that this was good chewing cane. So it's a kind of a yellowish green cane, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is, well, I did some research on the internet. I mean, I've grown cane before. Back in the 80s, I had a yard and I grew a lot of cane. Basically just stuck it in the ground and it grew. But you know, looking around the internet, I see that there's several different ways that people are growing it, and everybody's asking what's the best way to get it started. Some people say you just lay it horizontally in the ground. That's the the standard way of doing it. Other people say that you can get it started by putting it in some potting soil in a pot. Other people say, well, you just stick a piece of the cane in a bucket of water and it'll grow roots. So I thought I would try all three ways and see which one gives the best results. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these nodes, these joints in between, and those are the pieces that you actually plant. Okay, so what I have here is I've got all my pieces cut, the pieces of cane, and I cut it so that there's two joints. You could probably do with just one, and that would be fine, but I went with two. I see some people doing it that way. And what I have here is a large pot, like a fruit tree might come in from the nursery. And you know, there are some people who grow the cane, who sprout the cane by just sticking it in like that, and I'm sure that works just fine. But the recommended way is to just lay it horizontally. And if you see these little nodes right here, that's where the new cane will come from. And I don't know, those feel like they might be a little bit old, but we're going to plant them and see what happens. And I'm just going to sort of partially cover them. I think I'm going to put 3 in here, and then I'll put the rest in the ground once I get it prepared. I just didn't want to leave the cane laying around anymore. I figured the sooner I get it in the ground, in the potting soil, the better. And probably I'm just going to moisten that a little bit, and then maybe put a piece of clear plastic over it just to keep the moisture in, and see if that helps it sprout sooner. And what I did with the top piece is I just sticking it in about 5 inches of water, and it should sprout some roots and start to grow. And then once I start to see a good amount of roots on it, then I'll transfer it to some potting soil and then to the ground, or else just put it straight into the ground. Kind of depends on the weather, I would imagine. If we're having really cold weather, I'll probably keep it in a pot, and if we're having some fairly mild winter, then I'll probably put it straight in the ground. So I have those two things, and I have a few pieces left over, and these are going to go right in the ground. And a few minutes ago I actually did taste a piece of the cane, and it is quite good for chewing cane. I actually have in mind growing enough of it to crush and make juice. So that's kind of my ultimate goal, rather than to sit around and ruin my teeth gnawing on cane. Okay, so I've got my little trenches dug here, and I'm just going to put the cane down in here. and cover them up. And then I'm probably going to put some garden netting over this to keep the cats from having a party here tonight. Sprinkle a little water on it and stand back and see what happens. That's it. Okay, it has been almost a month since I planted the sugar cane in this black pot, and right now I'm not seeing anything. Coming up. Okay, this is the garden where I planted the cane, and I see nothing coming up here yet. Okay, so if you remember, in addition to what I put in the black pot in the ground, I also put a cane in this bucket of water. Okay, and I put it in there December 15th, that's when I planted everything. Today is January 11th, 2013, so it's been almost a month, and you can see that this one, you can see right there is a little sprout coming out at the top, and here's another one coming out. And at each, there's not one on that node, there's one, and there's one there, and another one down here at the bottom. Actually, you can see some roots starting to come out there, little white roots. So if you want to get quick results and you want to see the cane growing, it looks to me like the best way to do it is to stick it in some water, and then once it's sprouted some roots and got some shoots going, then you could plant it in the ground. Okay, it's been about 6 weeks since I stuck this sugar cane in the water, and the weather has been unusually warm here in Central Florida, and so it has, as you can see, it's sprouted. And it has started growing some roots, but they're not doing really well. They come out and they're just kind of, some of them look like they might be dying. I think it's probably because of the extra cool weather that we've been having the last week or so. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the ground. I'm going to hold it up a little bit so you can see the little shoots that are coming up. And so we're just going to cut these sections and then plant them in the dirt and see what happens. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to first cut these, get it where you can see it there. And I'm going to leave 2 nodes. Just like that. Not cutting all the way through. Okay, so you can see where it looks like it was starting to rot there in the middle of the cane. So it's time for them to go into the ground. So I'm just gonna bring my dirt here. I've just taken this big pot and put potting soil in it, and I'm doing this in the potting soil rather than putting them in the ground because I think they'll probably get a better start this way. And this one, I'm not sure if this one's going to do anything, but here's a little shoot there, so I'm just going to plant them shallow. Here's another. This one looks promising. And this one, of course, looks the most promising, but you never know. We'll see how it does. Okay, so I'm just going to put this in a warm spot and put a little bit of water on it, and stand back and see what happens. Okay, so I want to do another update on my sugar cane. It is now the middle of March 2013, and this is the little patch where I planted the cane directly into the ground, and the only one that has come up is this one. Just this shoot right here has come up. So far I do not see any others. I've verified that a couple of them have rotted. There are a couple of other canes under there, under here, that still look like they might be alive. See if I can find one here. Here's one. See, that one still looks kind of green. Like it might at some point send up a shoot. Right. So now I'm going to go over to the black buckets, and these are the ones that I sprouted in the water. Right, and you can see how they're doing really well. Quite a few canes in there. Right. And just so you can see the size, there's my hand. And this one is the one that I just planted directly in the soil in the pot. Okay, and there's one in here. And then down there I've got a couple of little sweet potato plants that I had sprouted from sweet potato. And the weather's still a little cool right now. March has been quite chilly compared to January and February, so they haven't really grown much. But that's the status of the cane, and so right now I'm kind of liking the ones that I started in the water. That seemed like a really good thing. Okay, that's the update for middle of March. Okay, it's April 23rd now, and these are the sugarcane plants. They were doing fairly well, but then I put some blood meal in there, and they really jumped out of the ground and turned a much more healthy looking green with the blood meal. So here's my hand so you can see the size of them, and if you look down in there you can see there's some additional shoots coming up here, some additional canes. Here's one, here's two additional canes coming up, and if you recall, these are the canes that I actually started in the bucket of water. And if you look over at this one back here, this is the cane that I started in the right here in this black bucket. It's not doing quite as well. In fact, I would say it's doing about half as well as the ones I started in water. And if we come over to the garden, the cane that I actually planted directly in the garden back, I think it was December, there it is, and as you can see, it is just tiny. And here's a cane here, a piece of cane that never did come up. It looks green, so maybe there's still a possibility, but I'm kind of doubting that anything's going to happen with it. I actually put I don't know, 4 or 5 canes in this, can't remember now, in this spot, and only the one came up. Okay, 5.5 months after planting this cane, I'm finally ready to put it into the ground, and I've found a spot over in the corner by a new fence that I just put up, and here I'm just going to clear away some of the old leaves so you can actually see the cane. And quite a few new canes have come up in the pot. And this is actually, just to remind you, this is actually the cane that was started in the water, in the bucket of water. And so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see some of the roots that are coming out. And here it is. I basically just dug a hole and stuck it in the ground, and I'm going to put some compost and mulch on it. And there's the new fence that I'm working on. And that's it. If you have any questions or any comments about your experience growing cane, please leave a comment. I hope you learned something.